Hello, everybody. My name is Robert People, and you are listening to People's Court. Thank you all for joining me. This is my first podcast, so we're going to get right to it. A couple of days ago, most of the country and a good portion of the world either watched or listened to the Senate hearing in which Dr. Christine Blasey Ford and Judge Brett Kavanaugh testified, speaking about an alleged incident that happened back in the early 80s in which Dr. Ford alleges that Judge Kavanaugh committed sexual assault. Now, by now, mostly everybody knows the details of it, okay? I'm here to share some of my thoughts and a lot of what I've read when it comes to especially people sharing their opinions. And, of course, this is largely bipartisan, so we're talking about people on the Democratic side, Republican side. This is a us against them thing in a lot of cases, even though Dr. Ford made that clear that that's not what she was about. That's where we are now, okay? A lot of the Republicans are defending Judge Kavanaugh. Democrats, for the most part, are defending Dr. Ford, but there's a lot of independents like myself in there who are, yes, defending Dr. Ford. And many of the opinions are based on largely how the testimonies went. Now, it was, to be honest, pretty sickening to me as to how Judge Kavanaugh conducted himself. Now, I'll say this right off the top. I believe Dr. Ford for no other reason but the fact that she went through so much just to get to this point, and she stayed with it. She stayed and she stood tall. Now, it doesn't make sense to me, and everything doesn't have to make sense to me, but it wouldn't be sensible for someone to go through that much, getting death threats, being told, or not being told, but basically being forced to move out of her home, having to face this committee, knowing that a good portion of these individuals, especially considering how long it took before she came forward, knowing that she'd have to face them, and after all this, still sticking by everything she said. That's a lot to do, to sit there and be lying about it. So that doesn't guarantee that she's telling the truth, but I know, at least for me, that if I'm making something up and I'm getting all that, at some point I'm gonna tell myself, this is not all worth it. My family's lives are not worth it. My life isn't worth it. I'm not about to move and go anywhere because of all this. I would find some way to sort of weasel out of it or back off or not raise so much of a fuss about it, but she stuck with it. Judge Kavanaugh, now this is what's the most disturbing, the most disturbing as far as he's concerned, okay? And I don't know how anybody, if you are not strictly thinking as a Republican or just someone who enables sexual predators out there, I don't know how you can look at his testimony and sit here and say that he is fit to be on the Supreme Court. A lot of what he did, I promise you, he would not allow in his own courtroom. And it started off, we're not even talking about having watched the entire thing. Now, I watched the whole hearing between both of them, okay? But you almost didn't even have to, because when he first came out here, his opening statement, not even 5 minutes into his opening statement, and he's throwing out all these allegations. He's mentioning Democrats, which is, of course, one of the president's tactics. There's no secret there, because that's what he does all the time. That's what a lot of his rallies are about, just spending the entire time firing up his base by talking about how horrible Democrats are and everything else. That's mainly what he sticks with. That, along with the news media being fake, but we'll come back to that another time. That whole opening statement, he blamed Democrats. He brought the Clintons into this. He mentioned hate for Donald Trump in the presidential election 2016. Now, again, I'm sure if he was running one of his court cases and this is what lawyers came into his courtroom to speak about, that wouldn't be okay. He's throwing out all kinds of everything just to get, I don't know, to keep this separated, whatever his motivation for it was. That's not acceptable to me, especially as someone who will soon be a federal judge and someone who's done it already for, I want to say, and I could be wrong about this, I want to say about 11 to 12 years or so that he's been in the position he's sitting in. As far as the nomination goes, I'm not going to put him down for crying about anything because I'm a man. There's nothing shameful about crying. But there was a lot more that came with that. Okay, there was a lot more that came with that. And my problem with his, with the emotion that he showed is that if Dr. Ford even came close to showing anything near what Judge Kavanaugh did, she would be ridiculed and called, oh, she's too emotional. Women are so emotional, all this and that. Now, she would have every right to cry if this was, if this is all true. She has every right to cry about it, but she did not. She held together pretty well from what I saw. Okay, so again, we're not going to put down Judge Kavanaugh for being emotional about things. If he is, in fact, being accused of this, and he is innocent of everything he's being accused of, then yes, I would be upset too. I would have a chip on my shoulder about that also. I don't fault him for simply that. But when it came time to the questions, when it came time to the questioning, none of us were there. Okay, this was 1980, I believe, well, like I said, early 80s, okay? None of us were there, so we can't sit here and say one way or the other what's true or not. But why is one side, why is Dr. Ford so open and so willing to want this to be investigated, and Judge Kavanaugh is more hesitant about it? That's what we got from the hearing. That's what I learned from it. Now, as Dr. Ford was being questioned, there were times that she could not recall something specific and exact. There were times she didn't understand questions, and she made that clear. She said, I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. Now, as far as Judge Kavanaugh was concerned, there were so many times where he just straight up did not answer questions. Now, for somebody in his position, in the position he's been nominated for, that is not acceptable. Now, I don't care if you decide to want to reply back to me and say, well, you know what, if you are the one sitting up there, but guess what, I'm not the one sitting up there. And we all sitting here listening to this and watching these hearings, we're not the ones up there. Okay, if it was up to all of us, that means all of us would be nominated for Supreme Court. We are not. He is. Okay, he's not applying for a job at Target down the street or at the gas station around the corner. He is applying, and this is essentially a job application, he's applying for the Supreme Court. I would like to think that anybody involved would expect more from someone about to be in the Supreme Court justice seat than that person who's working at the corner store or wherever else. So we need to be, if we as a country are looking at him and saying, you know what, it's whatever because of that, or if we're expecting the same out of him as how we were when we're nowhere near his position, then that's a problem. He was asked questions, yes or no questions, very simple. Again, in his courtroom, how much would he have accepted if lawyers and witnesses, everyone, went all around yes or no questions? How many times has he let's not even play how many times would he. How many times has he? How many times has he told a witness, just answer the question? How many times has he told a lawyer, just get to the point of whatever it is? So many times. And yes, I could have taken notes and gotten every instance that he does it, but he did it so many times, there's not enough paper for how many times he did this. He was asked straight yes or no questions. He likes beer. If you know nothing else from anything he said, he likes beer. We got it. He likes beer, okay? But the questions, that's the part I'm looking at. I'm not going to judge his being emotional, despite how Dr. Ford would be treated, would have been treated if that were her. But I'm looking at just how he answered. As someone who this is not his first time being in front of a group of people. Okay, if he wants to get to the bottom of this, I would assume, and maybe wrongly assume, he has more decorum and he has the ability more so to conduct himself in a manner far better than what he did. Again, he was asked yes or no questions. That's easy. Yes or no question. Just say yes or no. This is a hearing. I want to say everyone got 5 minutes to ask their question. All you need to do, yes or no, was it. People said, oh, he was badgered and everything. He wasn't badgered. He was asked to just answer the question. He was asked a yes or no question, and he went everywhere else. And the person asking the question, usually, most often, it was a Democratic senator asking the question. It seemed like he was more resistant to answer the questions from them. Okay, again, we are in this place where everything is separate. And some are going through a whole lot to keep things separate, as Senator Lindsey Graham proved, but we'll leave that alone for right now, as he ran around scolded everybody. But very simple questions. Yes or no. That's it. I don't have names and so forth right now, but you all watched the same, I hope, hearing that I did, and that's a problem. That is a problem for someone who says he's innocent. That is a problem for someone who's not only held the position he's held for this long, but also for someone who is going to be placed in a much higher position than he's had previously, and someone who's going to be responsible for the lives of a lot of people on the federal level. We're talking about way more than what he's used to doing. So, yes, I want more out of him. I want someone who can get in front of that committee and be able to conduct himself a little better than that. I know I wouldn't, but I'm not in his position. I don't have the experience that he has. So, no, I'm not supposed to do well. You're not supposed to do well. Everyone on the street is not supposed to do well because we're not the ones, again, up for Supreme Court justice. I'll get to this and then we'll wrap things up. A senator asked him a question about whether he blacked out, whether he's ever blacked out during drinking. His response after we went all around the world doing it was, I don't know, have you? Now, I don't care how much you want to try to support Republicans or anybody. That from somebody in his position was grossly inappropriate. His apology got it too little too late. That's what I feel about that whole thing, because there's no reason that should have ever come out of his mouth to begin with. I don't want to hear about, oops, it was a mistake, because guess what? Are you okay with a mistake when he's sitting on the Supreme Court and he sends down a verdict where he just decides, okay, you get 20 years in prison, oops, mistake, oh, sorry? No, he's going to have to stick with those decisions, okay? So that should have never, ever come out of his mouth. Okay, now we're going to come back to a lot of this. We're going to get deep into a lot of things. But right now, again, first podcast, I'd like to thank you all for joining, for listening. Feel free to subscribe. Let me know what you think. Share your opinions. I want to hear it, okay? I don't, one thing about me, my firmness never means that my opinion means more than yours. I want you all to let me know what you think, okay? Leave comments, share this with your friends or what have you. But again, as we continue with People's Court, we're going to get a lot deeper into a whole lot of other topics, and I want to hear what you all think, okay? My next one's going to be on Thursday. This Thursday is October 4th, and we're going to look at doing this probably a little bit earlier. Right now, I am finishing up 11:30 Central Standard Time. We're going to lock down a solid time on doing these, but I want to know what you all think. Talk to me about the hearing. Talk to me about Dr. Ford, Judge Kavanaugh, where you were on this whole thing. We'll try to keep this as civil as possible. Again, thank you for joining me, and I will talk to you all next time.